In this video, I'm going to explain a little bit about how I'm working on the software for this robot. First off, we've got the NetBeans IDE over here, IDE standing for Integrated Development Environment. NetBeans, as well as the program that I'm building, is all written in Java. I'm only using one external library. It's called RxTx. It's a rather old serial library, but it works good with the Raspberry Pi, so that's why I'm using it. And over on this screen, I've got a direct connection over to the Raspberry Pi, so I'm actually using VNC Viewer in order to directly connect. So what I do over here is I write the software, and when I get ready to test it, I can go over here to run it on the Raspberry Pi, and then it compiles and it transfers the information over to the Raspberry Pi and runs the application. And then if I want to run it another time, I can run it over here. So just to show you what it looks like live here. Now right now I have nothing hooked up to it. We're going to go over to the Raspberry Pi in a second and actually connect up some Arduinos. So I'm going to tell it to run my program. And it goes over here, it says identifying ports, and shows 0 ports found. That's actually correct because I have nothing plugged in. So now let's go over to the Raspberry Pi. Alright, so now I have this thing programmed in such a way that it sends out commands from the Raspberry Pi over to the Arduino. It says, okay, what kind of device are you? And if it gets a response back in a certain format that it expects, then it identifies the device and sets up all the communications and sends a few commands over to it and so forth. So now I'm going to plug this in, which is going to be hard one-handed. I didn't think about that. Let's try it this way. There we go. So now it's plugged in. Excuse me. This is the Arduino and motor shield. I'm going to replace that motor shield and use this one instead from Adafruit, but anyway, that doesn't matter. At this point, we're just testing the base communications. So I go over here and I run the program just like we did remotely, but we're doing it on the actual Pi. And it says it found 1 port and it identified the COM port. The compliant modules means that it sent a certain set of commands and the remote Arduino responded correctly. So therefore it identifies the type of device with a module ID. Each Arduino will have its own module ID, which basically tells it what type of device it is, like if it's a motor controller, a speech module, sonars, whatever it is. And then the module type is an Arduino, and it's using a serial protocol over that port at 9600 baud. And then there's a stream of text that was sent and echoed back. And it shows it took 671 milliseconds to send all that. That's round trip, going to the Arduino and back, was it 4 times, and I think that's roughly about 80 characters. So it did okay. I mean, I'm going to see if I can improve the speed a little bit, but anyway, it's coming along. So now let's do an example of an Arduino that is not recognized. So I'll plug this in. Alright, so now I have both of them connected. This one has no code specific to this robot, so it shouldn't recognize that. So now I'm going to run it again. Actually, let me clear the screen. And we'll run the program again. Alright. So it found 2 ports. The USB 0, the ACM 0. It found 1 compliant module, which is correct. There's only 1 that it recognized, and it's the same one that we just had. Now if I unplug this one, which is the only one it recognizes, see what happens. found one port, no modules that were compliant, terminate. And that's it. So this is basically becoming the foundation for the rest of the robot. And I got something kind of exciting here. My son and I are going to be putting together the base to the robot. I found it was a little bit cheaper and a much quicker start if I just purchased a generic robot tank base. So this is what we're going to be putting together probably today, and I'll post a video later once we get it built. So this is basically what it does. Is it has the frame, there's 2 motors and a battery pack, which I'll probably use a different battery pack for that. So I'm going to need a little bit more power, I think, with everything, but we'll see. So that's the installation instructions. It has a nice little book to it. And of course it's got a lot of parts, the tracks, all that. So we're going to get started here. That'll give us our basis to start putting everything together. And we'll probably mount this set of servos with the camera to it. Probably going to mount a sonar sensor up here so it can detect distance. Then I'll have to write some code for that guy, and well, actually a lot of code. But that's going to be the biggest hurdle, is writing all the code for it, and it's all custom. None of this is off the shelf except for the one library that's used for the serial communications. There's a lot of code that's going into this, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So anyway, that's the video for today. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.